The Galactic Council had watched Earth for a very long time. They had observed the small blue planet spinning in the darkness of space for over 300 years. Their scientists had studied the strange creatures living on its surface. Their leaders had discussed what to do about them in countless meetings. In the end, they had decided to do nothing at all. Humans, the Council believed, were too primitive to matter. They were violent creatures who spent most of their time fighting each other. They built weapons to kill their own kind. They polluted their own air and water. They could not even agree on simple things like borders and resources. The Council watched them wage war after war, and they laughed at the foolishness of it all. The Empire, the most powerful member of the Galactic Council, had suggested destroying Earth several times. Why wait for the humans to become a problem, they argued. Better to wipe them out now while they were still trapped on their single world. But the other council members had dismissed this idea. Humans would never achieve faster than light travel, they said. Humans would probably destroy themselves long before they ever reached the stars. They were wrong about everything. Commander Daniel Price stood on the bridge of the USS Horizon and watched the stars stretch and blur around him. The ship was making its first jump through folded space, traveling faster than light itself, crossing distances that should have taken thousands of years in mere seconds. Daniel had dreamed of this moment since he was a child reading old science fiction books in his bedroom. Now it was real, and he was leading humanity's first mission beyond the solar system. The USS Horizon was not a small ship. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, and it carried enough firepower to level a continent. 3,000 crew members lived and worked within its armored hull. Engineers maintained the massive reactor core that powered everything. Soldiers trained in the combat simulators every single day. Scientists monitored sensors that could detect a ship from halfway across a star system. The Horizon was humanity's greatest achievement, built in secret over 2 decades, designed for one purpose only: survival. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morgan sat at the navigation console, her fingers dancing across the controls as data streamed across her screens. She was one of the best pilots in the fleet, which was why Daniel had requested her for this mission. Her calm voice cut through the tension on the bridge. "Jump complete, Commander. We have arrived in the Arcturus system. All systems are functioning within normal parameters." Daniel nodded and took a slow breath. They showed a field of unfamiliar stars. They were further from Earth than any human had ever traveled. History was being made with every passing second. "What are we looking at out there, Lisa?" Lisa studied her instruments and her expression changed. Something was wrong. "Commander, I am detecting multiple vessel signatures, 37 ships all around us. They appeared the moment we dropped out of the jump." The bridge crew fell silent. This was the moment they had prepared for. This was the moment they had feared. Humanity had known about alien life for decades. They had intercepted strange signals from deep space. They had decoded fragments of alien communication. They knew the galaxy was ruled by ancient species who did not welcome newcomers. That knowledge had driven them to build the Horizon in the first place. Chief Engineer reported from the engine room. "Reactor is stable. We can jump again if we need to." Weapons Officer Cole checked his systems. "All batteries are charged and ready. Defensive shields are at full strength." Dr. Amy stood ready in the medical bay with her teams prepared for casualties. Daniel Price looked at his crew. Good people, brave people. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never return home. They had left behind families and friends and everything they knew because they believed humanity deserved a place among the stars. "Open a channel," Daniel ordered. "Let them make the first move." The alien transmission came through moments later. The universal translator, built from years of studying intercepted alien communications, converted the message into English. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Sovereign Galactic Council space. You are in violation of interstellar law. Power down your weapons systems immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction." The voice belonged to Admiral of the Empire. He commanded the enforcement fleet that patrolled this region of space. He had conquered dozens of worlds in his long career. He had crushed rebellions and burned cities and watched entire civilizations fall before his ships. He expected these strange newcomers to surrender immediately, just like everyone else always did. Daniel Price smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Put me on screen," he said quietly. Lisa opened the channel and Daniel faced the alien admiral for the first time. Was tall and covered in dark scales. His eyes were cold and yellow. He looked like a predator, and he clearly expected to be feared. "Admiral," Daniel began, keeping his voice steady and calm. "My name is Commander Daniel Price of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have traveled a very long way to meet you." "Your names and origins are irrelevant," replied. "You will surrender now or you will die. Those are your only options." Daniel shook his head slowly. "Admiral, I do not think you understand who you're talking to. My species has spent its entire existence fighting. We have survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that should have wiped us out completely. We invented nuclear weapons before we invented spacecraft. We split atoms before we learned to read our own genetic code. We are the most dangerous thing our planet ever produced." He paused and let those words hang in the air. "We did not come all this way to surrender to the first bully who pointed a gun at us. If you want this ship, you are welcome to try and take it. But I promise you this, Admiral, it will cost you more than you can possibly imagine." The channel went dead, had cut the transmission. Around the horizon, 37 alien warships began to move into attack formation. They powered up their weapons. They raised their shields. They prepared to destroy the impudent humans who had dared to threaten them. On the bridge of the horizon, Daniel Price sat back in his command chair and watched the enemy ships closing in. "All hands," he announced over the ship-wide communication system. "Battle stations. This is not a drill. Humanity is about to show the galaxy what we are made of." The crew responded instantly. They had trained for this moment. They were ready. The first shots of humanity's war for survival were about to be fired. Admiral had commanded warships for longer than most species had existed. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had watched planets burn and empires crumble. He had crushed rebellions with casual ease and accepted the surrender of kings and presidents and prime ministers. In all his years of conquest and destruction, he had never once experienced the feeling of genuine fear. That changed in the space of 4 minutes. The fleet moved with practiced precision. 37 warships spread out in a standard encirclement pattern, cutting off all escape routes. Their weapons locked onto the human vessel. Their shields hummed with protective energy. Every captain in the fleet expected an easy victory. They had done this hundreds of times before. Primitive species always broke when faced with overwhelming force. Admiral gave the order to fire. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human ship. Missiles streaked from launch tubes. The combined firepower of 37 vessels converged on a single target. It should have been enough to destroy a small moon. The human ship moved. It did not move like any vessel had ever seen. It twisted and spun with impossible grace, sliding between energy beams that should have torn it apart. Its hull glowed with strange shielding technology that scattered weapons fire into harmless light. The missiles that found their target exploded against barriers that did not even flicker. Then the humans fired back. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morgan worked the navigation controls with desperate focus, throwing the horizon into evasive maneuvers that pushed the ship to its absolute limits. She had trained in simulators for years, but nothing had prepared her for real combat. Nothing had prepared her for the feeling of knowing that thousands of lives depended on her reflexes. "Shields holding at 92%, she reported. "Their weapons are not penetrating." Commander Daniel Price watched the tactical display with cold eyes. The alien ships were regrouping, adjusting their tactics, trying to find a weakness in the human defenses. They would not find one. Daniel said calmly, "Show them what we brought." Weapons Officer Cole had waited his entire career for this moment. His fingers moved across his console, and the horizon came alive with destruction. The main batteries fired first. Massive rail guns accelerated solid projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. The rounds crossed the distance to the nearest ship in a heartbeat and punched straight through its shields like they were made of paper. The alien vessel exploded in a ball of white fire. Before the debris had finished spreading, the horizon's secondary weapons opened up. Guided missiles with warheads designed by humanity's finest scientists tracked and destroyed 2 more ships. Energy weapons that drew power directly from the reactor core sliced through alien armor. Defensive systems shot down incoming fire with mechanical precision. The fleet had never faced anything like this. Their commanders screamed orders that made no difference. Their ships tried to maneuver but found themselves outmatched at every turn. The human vessel danced through their formation, striking from unexpected angles, disappearing behind clouds of debris, emerging to deliver devastating attacks. 4 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 23 warships drifted through space as burning wreckage. Thousands of alien soldiers were dead. The remaining 14 vessels had broken formation and fled into faster-than-light escape, their captains too terrified to continue fighting. Admiral was among the survivors. His flagship had taken heavy damage. Entire sections were open to vacuum. Fires burned in corridors where his crew lay dead or dying. He sat in his command chair and stared at the sensor readings that showed the human ship sitting motionless among the debris of his fleet. One ship, one primitive vessel from a world the Galactic Council had dismissed as irrelevant, and it had destroyed the finest fleet in the Empire in less time than it took to eat a meal. Second in command approached him carefully. The younger officer was clearly struggling to process what had just happened. "Admiral, what do we do now?" Did not answer immediately. He was thinking about the human commander's words. "We are the most dangerous thing our planet ever produced." He had dismissed those words as empty boasting. He had been very wrong. "Set course for the nearest council station," finally said. "Maximum speed. The council must be warned about what has happened here today." "Warned about what, Admiral?" Turned to look at his officer. For the first time in his long career, his eyes held something other than cold confidence. "The humans are coming, and we cannot stop them." The damaged ships limped away into the darkness between stars. Behind them, the USS Horizon remained motionless, surrounded by the wreckage of their fleet. On the bridge, the human crew sat in stunned silence. They had won. They had faced the full fury of an alien armada and they had won. It seemed impossible. It felt like a dream. Dr. Amy reported from the medical bay. 12 wounded, Commander. Nothing critical. No fatalities." Daniel Price closed his eyes and allowed himself a moment of relief. 12 wounded against thousands of enemy dead. He had hoped they would survive. He had not dared to hope they would win so decisively. "Good work, everyone," he said quietly. "All of you. That was the finest display of human courage I have ever witnessed." Lisa Morgan turned from her console. Her hands were still shaking from the adrenaline. "Commander, what happens now? They will come back. They will bring more ships." Daniel nodded slowly. She was right, of course. This was only the beginning. The Galactic Council would not accept defeat easily. They would send bigger fleets. They would develop new weapons. They would do whatever it took to destroy the upstart species that had humiliated them. "We send a message," Daniel decided. "We tell the Council that we did not come here looking for war. We came looking for peace and respect, but if they force us to fight, we will fight, and we will win." He stood up from his command chair and looked around at his crew. Humanity has taken its first step into the galaxy. Today we proved that we belong here. Today we showed them that humans will not be conquered or enslaved or destroyed. We are here to stay." Cole let out a long breath. "Think they will listen, Commander?" Daniel smiled grimly. "They will listen. They might not agree with what we have to say. They might try to crush us, but they will never again make the mistake of underestimating us." The Horizon's communication systems broadcast humanity's first official message to the Galactic Council. It was simple and direct. "This is Commander Daniel Price of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have defeated your fleet in the Arcturus system. We did not seek this battle, but we will not apologize for defending ourselves. Humanity wishes to live in peace with the other species of this galaxy. We are sending a diplomatic delegation to discuss terms. We hope you will receive them with the respect they deserve." The message ended with a warning. Any further attacks on human vessels or personnel will be met with overwhelming force. We have more ships, we have more weapons, and we have the will to use them if necessary. Choose wisely. The transmission went out across the galaxy, carried by every relay station and communication network in existence. Within hours, every species in the Galactic Council had heard it. Within days, the entire galaxy was talking about the humans from Earth. Some called them monsters, some called them heroes, some called them the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. But everyone agreed on one thing. Everything had changed. Station Prime had existed for over 10,000 years. It was the largest structure in the known galaxy, a massive orbital platform that housed the headquarters of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 600 different species gathered there to debate laws and treaties and the fate of entire worlds. For Station Prime had been a symbol of order and stability. Nothing happened in the galaxy without the Council's approval. Now that symbol was shaking with fear. High Counselor stood at the center of the great assembly hall and tried to restore calm. Her body was made of living crystal, and light pulsed through her form in patterns that reflected her emotions. Right now, those patterns were chaotic and frantic. "Order," she called out, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustic systems. "We must have order." The representatives ignored her. They were too busy screaming at each other. The delegates demanded immediate war against Earth. The representatives begged for caution. The merchants calculated how this disaster would affect their trade routes. Everyone was talking. No one was listening. Had seen the combat recordings from Arcturus. She had watched a single human ship tear through 37 warships like they were made of glass. She had seen the cold determination in Commander Daniel Price's eyes when he promised to defend his people. She understood, perhaps better than anyone else in the chamber, exactly how much trouble the galaxy was facing. General of the militant wing finally managed to seize control of the debate. He was enormous even by standards, his scaled body covered in ceremonial armor that gleamed under the chamber's lights. "This is not a matter for discussion," he roared. "The humans attacked our ships, they killed our soldiers, they have declared war on the Galactic Council itself. We must respond with overwhelming force. We must destroy their planet before they can build more ships." Ambassador of the Diplomatic Corps rose to speak. She was a species known for their careful thinking and forearms. "General speaks of destroying Earth as if it were a simple matter. But did you watch the same recordings I did? One ship, General. One ship destroyed nearly your entire enforcement fleet. What happens when the humans build 10 ships, 100, 1,000? Then we destroy them before that happens," insisted. "With what forces? The fleet was supposed to be the finest in the galaxy. Now most of it is debris floating in the Arcturus system." The argument continued for hours. Different factions proposed different plans. Some wanted war. Some wanted negotiation. Some wanted to simply pretend the humans did not exist and hope they would go away. But everyone knew that last option was impossible. The humans were not going to disappear. The debate was interrupted by a signal from the communications center. A human transmission was cutting through every security protocol the Council had ever developed. It should have been impossible. It was happening anyway. Commander Daniel Price appeared on every screen in the Great Chamber. He looked tired but determined. Behind him, the bridge of the horizon hummed with quiet activity. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, "my name is Daniel Price. I command the Earth vessel Horizon. I understand you have been discussing how to respond to our arrival in your space." The chamber fell silent. Every eye and sensor focused on the human's image. "I want to make something very clear," Daniel continued. "We did not come here seeking war. We came here seeking our rightful place among the stars. Humanity has watched your galaxy from afar for decades. We know how you treat younger species. We know about the invasions and the conquests and the slavery. We built our ship to make sure those things would never happen to us." He paused to let those words sink in. "But we are not monsters. We do not wish to destroy your council or conquer your worlds. We simply want to exist in peace. We want to trade with willing partners. We want to explore the universe that we were born into. Is that really so terrible?" General stepped forward. "You killed thousands of our soldiers, you destroyed our ships, and now you speak of peace." "Your ships attacked us first, General. Your admiral demanded our surrender before we had committed any hostile act. We defended ourselves. If you cannot understand the difference between aggression and defense, then perhaps you are not qualified to lead anyone." The insult struck like a physical blow. His scales flushed dark with rage. Daniel Price continued before the general could respond. "We are sending a diplomatic delegation to Station Prime. Ambassador will arrive in 72 hours. She will explain what humanity wants and what we are willing to offer in exchange. I strongly suggest you receive her with respect and listen to what she has to say." "And if we refuse?" asked. Daniel's expression hardened. "Then you will have chosen war with a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of combat. We have survived ice ages and plagues and disasters. We have fought 2 global wars that killed tens of millions of our own people. We know how to endure suffering, and we know how to inflict it. Do not make the mistake of thinking Arcturus was the best we can do." The transmission ended. The chamber exploded into chaos once again. On the USS Horizon, Daniel Price turned away from the communication console and found waiting for him. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and the kind of quiet confidence that came from years of dangerous work. Before becoming a diplomat, she had served in the Marines. She knew how to fight, but she also knew how to talk. "Well," she said, "that was certainly dramatic." Daniel managed a tired smile. "You think they will negotiate in good faith?" Considered the question carefully. "Some of them will, seems reasonable. Some of the smaller species will want to ally with us against but they themselves are going to be a problem. They are used to being the biggest predators in the galaxy. They will not accept being challenged by a newcomer." "So what do we do?" "We go to Station Prime. We present our terms. We hope for the best but prepare for the worst." Paused. "And if they try anything stupid, you come in with the Horizon and remind them why that is a bad idea." Daniel nodded slowly. It was a good plan. It was probably the only plan that had any chance of working. "I will have Captain Bradley put together a security team for you. Best Marines we have." Shook her head. "I only need a small team, 10 people at most. If we go in with a small army, it sends the wrong message. We need to show them that we are confident enough to walk into their headquarters without an overwhelming escort." "That is risky." "Everything about this mission is risky. But sometimes you have to take chances if you want to change the world." Daniel studied her for a long moment, was either very brave or very foolish. He suspected she was both. "All right," he finally said. "Do it your way, but the Horizon will be standing by. If anything goes wrong, we will be there in minutes." Smiled. "I know you will. That is why I volunteered for this mission. because I know that no matter what happens, humanity has my back." She turned and walked away to begin preparing for the most important negotiation in human history. Behind her, Daniel Price stared out at the stars and hoped that his people were ready for whatever came next. Ambassador walked through the corridors of Station Prime with her head held high. The alien species around her stared with expressions she had learned to read over the past 3 days. Some showed curiosity, some showed fear, some showed hatred so intense it was almost physical. She ignored them all. Captain Bradley walked at her right side, his hand resting casually near his sidearm. He had chosen 9 of the best Marines from the horizon for this mission. They moved in a loose formation around the ambassador, their eyes constantly scanning for threats. None of them had slept well since arriving on the station. None of them trusted the aliens who surrounded them. The negotiations had been going better than expected. High Counselor had received the human delegation with formal courtesy. She had listened to his proposals and responded with reasonable counter-offers. Several smaller species had expressed interest in trade agreements. Even some of the more hostile council members had begun to soften their positions, had presented humanity's terms clearly. Recognition as a sovereign species with full rights under galactic law, territorial claims to the Sol system and the surrounding star systems, trade agreements based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation, a seat on the Galactic Council itself. In exchange, humanity offered its technology, medical advances that could extend, agricultural techniques that could increase food production, engineering methods that could build stronger structures, and most importantly, weapons technology that could shift the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Had seemed genuinely interested. So had Ambassador and several other moderate voices on the council. For a brief moment, had allowed herself to believe that this might actually work, that humanity might find its place among the stars through diplomacy rather than violence. That hope died on the 3rd day. Was walking through the diplomatic corridor when the attack began. There was no warning. One moment the corridor was peaceful. The next moment, soldiers were pouring from hidden doorways with weapons raised. Energy bolts screamed through the air. 2 of Marines fell in the first volley, their bodies crashing to the floor before they could even draw their weapons. "Contact," Bradley shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Defensive formation, protect the ambassador." The surviving Marines responded instantly. They had trained for exactly this scenario. Their projectile weapons came up and began firing at the attacking. Human bullets were different from energy weapons. They did not dissipate against armor. They punched through it. Soldiers who had expected an easy slaughter found themselves dying instead. Grabbed a sidearm from one of her fallen guards and joined the fight. She had been a Marine before she was a diplomat. She had served 3 combat tours on Earth before transferring to the diplomatic corps. Her hands remembered how to shoot even if her mind had been focused on peaceful solutions. The firefight raged through the station's corridors. Alarms blared. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, trapping the humans in a maze of unfamiliar passages. More soldiers appeared, drawn by the sounds of battle. Bradley took a hit to his left shoulder. The energy bolt burned through his armor and scorched the flesh beneath. He grunted in pain but kept fighting, his weapon never wavering. "We need to move," he called to. "They are trying to surround us." Nodded and pointed toward a maintenance hatch in the nearby wall. "Through there. We can use the service tunnels to break their encirclement." The Marines provided covering fire while forced open the hatch. One by one, the survivors crawled through into the narrow maintenance shaft beyond. Bradley went last, still firing at the pursuing until the hatch sealed behind him. The service tunnel was dark and cramped. Activated a small light attached to her wrist and led her team deeper into the station's infrastructure. Behind them, the sounds of soldiers trying to follow echoed through the metal walls. "How many did we lose?" asked quietly. "4 dead," reported. His voice was tight with pain and anger. Palmer and Williams, gone in the first seconds. Closed her eyes for a moment. 4 good people. 4 humans who had trusted her to keep them safe. They had come here hopping for peace and found only treachery. "The Horizon needs to know what happened," she said. "Can you reach them?" Checked his communication device. Negative. The station is jamming all human frequencies. They planned this carefully. Of course they had. They were not stupid. They had waited until the negotiations were progressing well, until humanity had lowered its guard, and then they had struck with overwhelming force. It was the kind of tactic that predators used against unsuspecting prey. But humans were not prey. Humans were the deadliest predators their planet had ever produced. They were about to learn that lesson the hard way. "We keep moving," decided. "Find a way to get a signal out. The commander will come for us. We just have to survive until then." The small group of humans crawled through the maintenance tunnels, pursued by enemies on all sides. Bradley's wound was getting worse. 2 other Marines had taken minor injuries. Their ammunition was running low, but none of them suggested surrender. None of them even considered it. Meanwhile, on the USS Horizon, Commander Daniel Price was reviewing routine reports when the communication officer suddenly sat up straight. "Commander, we have lost contact with the diplomatic team." Daniel felt ice form in his stomach. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "Their transponders went dark approximately 7 minutes ago. We are receiving nothing from Station Prime, not even carrier signals." Daniel was on his feet instantly. "Battle stations. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." Lieutenant Commander Lisa Morgan began plotting a course even before Daniel gave the order. She knew what was happening. They all knew. "Lisa, how fast can we reach Station Prime?" 11 minutes at maximum speed, Commander." "Do it. I want every weapon system armed and ready. Push the reactor as hard as it will go. I want more power than we have ever had before." The crew responded with grim efficiency. They had feared something like this might happen. They had hoped they were wrong. Now they were going to war. Daniel opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the commander. Station Prime has gone silent. Our diplomatic team may be under attack. We are moving to rescue them immediately. I will not lie to you. This could be a trap. We might be flying into an ambush. But those are our people on that station. They trusted us to have their backs. We are not going to let them down." He paused and his voice hardened. "If they have harmed our ambassador, there will be consequences. Prepare for combat." The USS Horizon's engines flared with blue fire as the ship accelerated toward Station Prime. Behind it, Earth waited for news that would determine the future of humanity among the stars. Back in the maintenance tunnels, and her surviving team had found a defensible position. They barricaded themselves in a small junction room and prepared for a last stand. Bradley checked his weapon and managed a bloody smile. "Well, Ambassador, this is not exactly how I expected diplomatic work to go." Laughed despite everything. "You should see some of the trade negotiations I have been involved in. This is almost relaxing by comparison." The sounds of pursuing grew louder. They were closing in. "Help is coming," said firmly. "Commander Price will not abandon us. We just have to hold out." Nodded and raised his weapon toward the entrance. "Then let us show these aliens what humans are made of." The USS Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above Station Prime. Every weapon system was armed. Every crew member was at battle stations. And Commander Daniel Price was done with diplomacy. The Galactic Council's defensive fleet scrambled to intercept. 42 warships from a dozen different species rushed to protect the station. They had been warned that the humans might retaliate. They had been promised that their numbers would be enough. They were wrong. The Horizon moved like vengeance made metal. Its weapons fired with devastating precision, targeting engines and weapon systems rather than destroying ships outright. Daniel did not want to kill more aliens than necessary. He wanted to send a message. The message was simple: do not get in our way. Ship after ship fell out of formation, disabled and drifting. The Council fleet had never faced anything like this. Their commanders gave orders that made no difference. Their pilots tried maneuvers that did not work. Within minutes, the defensive perimeter around Station Prime had collapsed completely. "This is Commander Daniel Price to all Galactic Council forces," Daniel broadcast on every frequency. "You attacked our diplomatic delegation. You violated the most basic laws of honorable conduct. You tried to murder people who came to you under a flag of peace." His voice was cold and hard. "I am going to retrieve my people now. Anyone who gets in my way will spend the rest of their short lives regretting it. Anyone who has harmed a human will answer to the full fury of Earth itself. This is not a threat. This is a promise." The surviving Council ships fell back. None of them wanted to face the human battleship again. None of them wanted to die for this treachery. On Station Prime, the soldiers surrounding position heard the explosions and felt the station shake. They knew what was happening. The human ship had arrived. Their ambush had failed. Some of them tried to flee. Others kept fighting, determined to kill the ambassador before she could be rescued. Neither group succeeded. The Horizons launched toward the station, carrying Marine assault teams ready for combat. Lieutenant Chris Palmer led the rescue force. He was young but experienced, and he had trained his entire career for exactly this kind of operation. "All teams, this is Palmer. We are breaching now. Priority 1 is the ambassador. Priority 2 is any surviving members of her security detail. Priority 3 is making them regret every decision that led them to this moment." The Marine punched through the station's hull at multiple points. Human soldiers poured into the corridors, their weapons spitting death at every who stood against them. The aliens had expected frightened diplomats. They found professional killers instead. The Marines moved with lethal efficiency, clearing corridor after corridor, neutralizing resistance with brutal precision. They had learned their trade on Earth's bloodiest battlefields. They were amateurs by comparison. In the maintenance junction, heard the sounds of battle changing. The surrounding her position began to fall back, their attention drawn by the new threat. Then she heard voices, human voices. "Ambassador, this is Lieutenant Palmer. We are here to bring you home." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away and stood up straight. "In here, Lieutenant, we have wounded." The Marines breached the junction room moments later. They found standing among her surviving team, her borrowed weapon still in her hands, her eyes burning with determination. Palmer saluted crisply. "Ma'am, the Horizon is waiting. Commander Price sends his regards." "Tell the commander I appreciate the rescue. How bad is it out there?" "The Council fleet is neutralized. The forces on the station are either dead or running. We own this place now." Nodded slowly. "Get Captain Bradley to the medical bay immediately. He took a bad hit. Then take me to the Council chamber. I have some things to say to whoever is still listening." The Marines escorted the diplomatic team through corridors littered with bodies. Alien species watched from doorways, their eyes wide with fear. They had never seen anything like this. They had never imagined that any species could be so terrifyingly effective in combat. The Council chamber was in chaos when arrived. Representatives from dozens of species huddled in small groups, whispering anxiously. High Counselor stood at the central podium, her crystalline form flickering with distress. Walked to the center of the room and every eye turned to her. She was covered in dust and smoke. Her clothes were torn. Blood stained her hands. She looked like she had crawled out of a war zone, which was exactly what she had done. "Counselor," said, her voice carrying through the suddenly silent chamber, "I came to this station seeking peace. Your people responded with attempted murder. I have lost 4 good soldiers today. 4 humans who trusted your counsel to honor the basic principles of diplomatic immunity. Form pulsed with something that might have been shame. Ambassador, they acted without authorization. Their betrayal does not represent the will of this council. And yet it happened on your station, under your watch, with soldiers who serve on your enforcement fleet. The chamber fell silent. No one had an answer for that. Turned to address the entire assembly. Humanity came to the stars seeking friendship. We offered trade and technology and mutual cooperation. We asked only for respect and recognition. You gave us treachery instead. She paused, and her eyes swept across the gathered representatives. So let me be very clear about what happens next. Humanity is going home. We will build more ships. We will grow stronger. We will expand into the galaxy whether you approve or not. And one day we will return to this council, not as suppliants begging for acceptance, but as equals demanding recognition. General stepped forward, his scales dark with fury. You dare threaten the Galactic Council. You are one species with one ship. We will crush you. Smiled, it was not a pleasant smile. General, your forces tried to ambush and murder a diplomatic delegation. A single human ship just destroyed your entire defensive fleet. Do you really want to find out what happens when we stop holding back? Had no response. Turned back to, I am leaving now. My people are leaving. When humanity returns to galactic affairs, I hope you will remember this day. I hope you will choose to be better. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. The USS Horizon departed Station Prime an hour later, carrying and her surviving team home. Behind them, the station's command center smoked from damaged systems. The Council's military forces drifted in disabled ships. The greatest political body in the galaxy had been humiliated by a species they had dismissed as primitives. On the bridge, Daniel Price watched the stars stretch into lines as the ship jumped to faster than light speed. What happens now? Lisa Morgan asked quietly. Now we go home. We report to Earth Command. We start building the fleet we should have built from the beginning. And the Council? Daniel was silent for a moment. They had their chance. They chose poorly. Now they get to live with the consequences. In the years that followed, humanity did exactly what it promised. They built ships by the hundreds. They colonized world after world. They formed alliances with species who had been oppressed by the Council for generations. They became a force that no one in the galaxy could ignore. Some species chose cooperation. They traded with humans. They learned from humans. They prospered alongside humans. These species found humanity to be generous and loyal partners. Other species chose conflict. They attacked human colonies. They ambushed human ships. They learned, painfully and repeatedly, that humans never forgot an insult and never forgave a betrayal. The empire fell within a decade. Their military was shattered by human fleets. Their leaders were tried for crimes against sentient life. Their people were given the choice between peaceful coexistence and extinction. Most chose wisely. The Galactic Council reformed itself under new leadership. High Counselor worked tirelessly to build bridges between humanity and the other species. She understood, perhaps better than anyone, that the old ways could not continue. The galaxy had changed forever. And throughout known space, a new saying emerged. It was whispered in spaceports and trading posts. It was taught in military academies and diplomatic schools. It became the first thing any species learned about dealing with humans. Never provoke them. They remember everything. They forgive nothing. And when their battleships arrive, the galaxy stands frozen in fear. Earth had claimed its place among the stars. The universe would never be the same.